Okay, so I had 2 bags of worms. I didn't even know, right? So I have 2 bags of worms. I just poured one in already, and I'm going to pour the second one. And so this is the worm composting that I'm doing. There is another way, so I might get some more worms because they were not expensive. So I might get some more worms and do it a bucket style. That was another method, layering buckets. And so I'm going to place this in the garden. I'm not sure if you should, but if they were to escape, because I've heard people say their worms escaped, they'll escape into the garden where I need them. And so these are red wigglers. I'm learning how to do my worm compost myself and get some black dirt, which is rich for the garden. So I'm going to show you after I pour the worms in. They're red wigglers, and I got it from a company in North Carolina. So prayerfully they're honest and what they're saying about these red wigglers. They are pure red wigglers. And I'm going to show you what I added to this bed. I had it overnight. I wet it yesterday and wanted to make sure all the water seeped out and that it was not overly wet. It needs to be damp, but not overly wet, like it's soaking, like you can, wring it out with water. It needs to be in a place where once you can, squeeze the cardboard or the paper that you have in there, it's not just dripping wet. So the worms come in this bag. There were 2 sets of bag. I guess there were 500 each. And so I'm going to pour it in this container. I don't have to add any dirt or soil because they already have it in there. So 1,000 worms is what I have in here. I drilled holes at the bottom. Well, my son and my husband did. They drilled holes at the bottom, and on the sides. Probably could do some more on the sides, and we gonna drill on the top. So all I placed in here was cardboard that we had here. We already had this bin, was going to use it for something else. And we added some dry leaves. We added dry leaves, cardboard, brown paper in here. And I'm going to have them in here for about 48 hours, 2 days. And then I'm going to add a little bit of compost that we had already started, or just some scraps in here. Start putting some scraps in here. I'm not supposed to overly feed them. So this is going to be something I'm learning. So there might be some trial and error in this. But that's it. I didn't add coconut coir. I might add a little bit of pine needle. I'm adding eggshells since we had quite a few eggs that we lost in forgetting it was in my pocket, or was trying to do 2 things at the same time while I had eggs that I was holding in a container, and it falling, or between me and my son breaking eggs that we're supposed to be selling. We were able to use the eggshell in here. So I had some in the compost that I started already in the garden, just a regular one. And I'm going to show you that too. But this is what I wanted to create more worms. And if this works out great, the purpose is to eventually sell my own worm compost, and maybe even worm tea. I think they also use the name worm casting. So let's do the reveal. Okay, so like I said, I only have brown paper from the cardboard. What's this? This shouldn't be in there. I don't know how that get. Oh, that was from the tape. Anyway, so I have cardboard at the bottom that have been wet, and I have brown paper, and I added some dry leaves. That's all that we have here. Take some of these greens. I don't need these in there, but that's it. That's all we have. That's all I have, and that's all I'm using. And the worms, I would have added some dirt, but they already had dirt that came with it, some soil already pre-started. That helps me out. And I have added eggshells in here. I'm going to add some more. You probably can't see it, but I'm going to add some to the top. And as you can see, here is that the worms are here. And that's what we're doing. That's it. They're moving around in here. I'm going to move this to my garden area. I'm going to do some research on what else they might need, because I'm that girl that was just like, I get a few information, I ran with it. Then I find out afterwards there was something else you were supposed to do. Okay, so that's what we're doing. I'm going to bring this to the garden, put some holes on the top, and bring it to the garden. So what I added was cardboard. I added some brown paper from that they used to stuff it, because it needs some paper. So that was, I already had the brown paper. I added dry leaves. I might add a little bit of pine needle, and some of the eggshells from our chicken that is in the compost, and that's it. That's all I'm adding. I moistened it with water, and I added the worms that I got from my packaging, from the order that I made, and that is it. You can add some other stuff to it. I think keeping it basic is how I would naturally do it if I was doing it. If I was doing it at home, didn't order worms, and to attract worms, I would be adding scrap, dirt, and cardboard. That's it. So I'm doing it as if I would have done it on my own, and trying to attract worms: scrap, dirt, and cardboard. So that's how I'm doing it. Keeping it low, cost efficient, and see if it works. If it works, I will keep it that way and do more of this. And again, I share the purpose is to get me some black gold, which helps with the nourishment of my soil and giving me a great garden. And I'm loving to see the worms moving here.